They don't call it complicated syrup for a reason. Hi, I'm Caribbean Andy. Welcome back to another episode, or perhaps your first episode of my Bar Essentials series. I did one all about bar tools, one about basic spirits, and today we're gonna make a bunch of syrups. Well, a couple. I'm not sure how many actually. A few though. We're gonna start off with simple syrup. And simple syrup, obviously very straightforward, but maybe you don't know what it is. And that's okay. There was a time in my life where I didn't know what it was either. The most accurate way of making ingredients like this for your cocktails, very similar to baking. You wanna be as accurate with your measurements as possible. The difference between making cocktails and baking is that cocktails are for getting drunk. So we don't need to get so crazy. For me, for simple syrup, especially if you're making it in small batches, I just use measuring scoops like these, and we do equal parts sugar and water. So I already did 1 cup of just tap water right here. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in my saucepan. I think this is a saucepan. It's what I've always called a saucepan, but it's also more of a pot. And we'll bring that up to a medium-high heat. We don't want to bring it to a boil. Then we're going to go ahead and measure out just a cup of sugar. It would be more accurate if you were to use a scale, but if we're doing 1 cup at a time, there's really not a whole lot of room for error, and it's not going to make that big of a difference. Oh, I got some on the floor. So once you see your water starting to simmer, some small bubbles forming, go ahead, add your sugar in there. And if you have a whisk, that's great. Just lightly stir it. And it'll eventually be completely clear and transparent when all of your sugar is dissolved. And that's it. We just made simple syrup. It was easy. They should call it easy syrup. So that's one way to do it. A lot of times you'll hear people using in cocktail recipes, maybe they're doing Demerara syrup, or they talk about doing a 2-to-1 simple syrup. So let's talk about that real quick. I typically don't buy Demerara sugar. I use sugar in the raw, which is turbinado cane sugar. You can buy this everywhere. You can buy it at the Scary grocery store near my apartment. So I assume that you can get some version of this wherever you live as well. And this is my preferred use for any of my simple syrups. It's got a little bit more of a rich flavor. It's not processed, it's completely vegan, so you don't have to worry about any of your guests. And it just has some nice molasses notes, and regardless of the cocktail, I think it just adds like a nice depth of flavor. Now, in terms of doing a 2-to-1 simple syrup, that's gonna do 2 things. One, obviously it's gonna make it thicker. You're gonna do the same thing we just did, but 2 cups of sugar and 1 cup of water. It's also gonna make it a bit sweeter, and you can use less of it, but because the sugar content is so high, that syrup can evaporate. When sugar syrups like this one evaporate, that's when they have the opportunity to let bacteria in and spoil. So a 2-to-1 sugar syrup is gonna have such a high sugar content that it's essentially gonna be shelf stable forever. Let's show what it would be like to be a little bit more precise. We're gonna bust out our handy scale. You don't need to buy one of these. You certainly don't need to buy one with a bamboo finish, but you can. If you want to just, spend 20 bucks and have a little bit more fun, you can still make a 2-to-1 simple syrup in the same manner we made our 1-to-1 with your scoops. And what we're gonna do is place our quart container on our scale when we turn it on, so that also tars the scale and it's not going to acknowledge that in any of its weight measurement. And we're gonna measure in grams because that's the most precise. I don't think that you can see that on the screen. I don't think the camera can pick up the scale screen, but it does weigh 230 grams. We'll start heating up our water, and I'm gonna pour this until we have 460 grams of sugar. 460 on the nose, I promise. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same thing. While this water's heating up, once it comes to a simmer, we're gonna go ahead and take our 460 grams of turbinado sugar, pour it right in. Turn this down a little. You don't want it to boil, just right under. So you do have to babysit it a little bit. Other alternatives, you could microwave your water. You could use a tea kettle to heat it up. I don't have any of those things, so this is how I do it. This did start to bubble up a little. That will settle that froth on top, but you can tell it's got like a nice clear consistency. Okay, so now we've made two kinds of simple syrup. You might be thinking to yourself now, but Caribbean Andy, I don't want to just make sugar flavored syrups. I want to make fruit syrups. I want to make herb syrups. I want syrups that taste like flowers. Well, that's really easy. From here, one of the easiest things you can do to flavor your simple syrups is just add in whatever you want it to taste like. So for example, cinnamon. I have some cinnamon sticks here. With herbs, I always recommend toasting them. You can do it in a pan, or you can just do it on the fire a little bit if you like to live dangerously. But adding heat to the herbs first is going to release some of the oils and just liven up the flavor. So I'm going to take our 2-to-1 simple syrup that we just made here, and I'm going to turn it into a cinnamon simple syrup. I'll put my cinnamon sticks in. I'll cover that with a lid, and I'll let it sit for about 45 minutes to an hour. Strain those cinnamon sticks out, and I've got a delicious cinnamon simple syrup. You can do the same thing for fruit. You could definitely cut up strawberries or raspberries, put them right in your pot, let it steep like a tea. I prefer, depending on the fruit, for example, like today, I want to make a raspberry syrup that I'm going to use. I'm going to use my raspberry syrup in a cocktail video later on this week, so check that out. I like to make raspberry syrup in my blender. And so what we're going to do for that is get the raspberries. So for our raspberry simple syrup, some people don't want to add any heat or really pulverize the raspberries. They just want to have a delicate flavor. I don't. I want to pulverize the raspberries. I want them sweet and jammy. That's what I find works best for cocktails. Also, I think that this is a really great substitute for grenadine. I am not someone who, I don't reach for grenadine very often. I do think that this raspberry syrup is a little bit more versatile and nice to have around. And you know, some people also might put a little bit of vodka or other spirit in there as a preservative, but I'm a bigger believer in just making less of something. You know, I'm only making today what I'm going to use for a few videos. So that's my recommendation there. That way, I don't know, it's cheaper. So all I'm gonna do, I did wash these, that's important. Go ahead, put these in your blender or your food processor. And then I'm gonna pour my simple syrup in. I did allow this to cool. It's still a bit warm. I don't know, what was that, like 15 seconds? And then you can go ahead and strain it out. Something that I do like using, especially if I'm blending ginger or something much pulpier, I have this. This is actually a nut milk bag, so this is for making like almond milk or cashew milk. I got this on Amazon as well. They come in 3 packs, very inexpensive, but it's almost as fine of a strainer as a coffee filter. And then you can wash it. Pour a nice magenta raspberry syrup right into our nut milk bag. I am gonna squeeze it a little just because I'm impatient. My hands are gonna get sticky, but good news, I have soap. Oh my goodness, we've made so many syrups. What a fun time we're having. Another type of sweetener besides sugar, if you're looking for an alternative, honey, of course, pretty common in cocktails, things like the bee's knees or penicillin. With honey, you don't want to put honey directly into your cocktail. It will never blend with the other ingredients. So both honey and pure agave need to be diluted. And different recipes call for different amounts, but typically I think a good rule of thumb is just 2-to-1. So 2 parts honey, 1 part water, just like our 2-to-1 simple syrup. Same for agave. Then lastly, one other syrup that I really enjoy having around and wanted to just show you how to make. I have done this on my channel before in my Cosmopolitan video, but I just figured while we're talking about basic simple syrups, like let's throw it back in there. Is lime cordial. Cordials are a version of a fruit syrup that's created to act as a preservative. You might be familiar with Rose's lime juice. That's a product that you should never buy. It tastes like the inside of a car wash. It's fake. There's nothing real about it at all. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make our own homemade version, which this is sort of a lazy adaptation from Jeffrey Morgenthaler's recipe. So what we're gonna do is actually, we're gonna bring 8 ounces of water to not quite a boil. Again, you can do this in the microwave or with a tea kettle. I have a stove. And then we're gonna zest some limes. If you can get some green ones with a nice skin. We're also gonna put lime juice in here. So the zest, it is adding flavor, but it's also adding more to the color. So I just have a cheese grater, nothing fancy. I'm not gonna work that hard. Just be careful that you don't get too much of the pith. You want just the skin. And I'm just gonna do it until I get bored. I'm gonna juice these limes that I just zested. Again, this is a time when you could be very precise, but we're not making a very large amount. And I don't know, I think it's fun to have a little variety from time to time. Oh no, I dropped the whole lime in. Oh, now it's become a dangerous carnival game. To that, we're gonna go ahead and add about a cup of sugar, our cup of nearly boiling steamy water, a little citric acid. This is gonna give it a little bit more tartness. This is, it's approved for use in organic food. It's also gonna act as a preservative. We're just gonna put a little bit in just to give it that sort of like back of the mouth tartness. This is acid, so be careful in your handling of it. You can buy this anywhere. You can buy it on Amazon. I guess I should put a link down below. I wonder if this is recording. And I would say about a teaspoon. And then there is a little raspberry left in there. You do just want to be a little bit careful because of the hot water. This could, I guess it could explode. Blend it for about 30 seconds to a minute, and that'll be long enough so that all of the sugar and citric acid dissolves. We're gonna strain it just like we did with our raspberry syrup, but this time I'm gonna try and be slightly less messy. I think that was a pretty successful day. Make sure you're subscribed so you can be sure to see how I use these syrups and cocktails in the coming weeks. They're all gonna last in the fridge for at least 30 days. Make sure you hit the like button if this is a thing that you enjoyed so you can see more of this content. Subscribe for videos where I will make cocktails utilizing these syrups in the coming weeks. And thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Tell me what I did wrong or bad in the comments. Did I say I made the lime cordial to show Trevor that it's easy? It was easy. It's good.